Hey there! In this month's edition of The New Scientist dated September 18, 2021, there was an article that looked at why orcas, otherwise known as killer whales, started ramming boats. Orcas were not known for disruptive interactions, and this has led to a ban on fishing vessels sailing near the Spanish coast for the protection of sailors, their boats and marine biodiversity. If you are looking for more fascinating information on orca ramming boats, continue listening on as we go through the article. Why have orcas started ramming boats? Martin Evans, a sailor on his way to Greece, was about 80 kilometers from Gibraltar on 17 June when he saw the orcas. I knew immediately that we were having a major issue, he says. I jumped onto the helm and tried to hand steer the boat, but it was ripped from my hands with tremendous force. For 2 hours, about a dozen orcas, also known as killer whales, circled the boat, bashing repeatedly against the bottom. At one point, I looked astern and saw bits of the rudder that were broken off floating away, he says. An increasing number of orca interactions like these have been reported since marine traffic started returning to the Strait of Gibraltar in mid-2020, after the lifting of pandemic lockdown measures. There were 41 reported encounters in July 2021 and 25 in August, all along the Iberian Peninsula, but mostly in Gibraltar waters. On 5 August, just off Cape Trafalgar, sailors Elizabeth Heigelberger and Marcus Berger were surrounded by orcas when they noticed parts of their rudder floating away. They appeared out of nowhere, says Heigelberger. The whales turned our sailing yacht in a circle, pushed us back and forth and swam again and again under the ship to hit the rudder and the keel. The encounter lasted more than an hour. Local fisher Joey Catania was one of the rescuers called to tow the boat to safety. Recalling the moment, he pulled up next to them. He says, it was clear they had feared for their lives. Catania, who has fished in Gibraltarian waters for decades, says these interactions are very unusual for this critically endangered subpopulation of orcas, Orcinus orca. These orcas were already known to take Atlantic bluefin tuna, Thunnus thinus, from the lines off fishing boats. The killer whales would patiently wait for the fishermen to catch and fight with the fish until it was exhausted. And then, once the fishermen were ready to bring it on board, they would attack, bite, and steal the tuna, says Susana Garcia Tiscar at the Autonomous University of Madrid in Spain. This, however, is as far as interactions with fishers used to go. The orcas were never previously interested in vessels. José Luis Cort, now retired from the Spanish Institute of Oceanography, has been researching the biology and dynamics of migrating bluefin tuna in the Strait of Gibraltar since 1973. Since the International Commission for the Conservation of Atlantic Tunas implemented a recovery plan in 2007, the spawning population has been recovering from the overfishing suffered in previous decades, he says, and this may be contributing to new orca behavior. However, researchers at GT Orca Atlantica, a group comprising scientists, local authorities, non-governmental organizations, whale-watching companies and others, say there isn't enough evidence to explain the orcas' new boat-directed behaviors. The group has developed an action plan to prepare seafarers for any potential run-ins. The plan's recommendations include stopping the boat, taking down the sails and releasing the wheel. Spanish authorities have also ordered a ban on vessels shorter than 15 meters long from sailing off the nearby Spanish coast between Cape Trafalgar and Barbade until September 22, to ensure the protection of sailors, their boats, and marine biodiversity. The working group is trying to predict what the orcas will do next. We think that orcas will be moving to the north of Spain, and, probably, they will interact with vessels there, says Ezekiel Andrew Kazala, a cetacean researcher involved with GT Orca atlantica. This population of orcas usually comes to the Strait of Gibraltar in the summer months, to spawn and to feed on tuna migrating into the Mediterranean Sea. Once the tunas have all crossed through the strait, the orcas end to return to the Atlantic Ocean. There have already been reports of orcas exhibiting disruptive behavior in Portugal, but we are not sure that all the individuals left the Strait of Gibraltar, and, because of that, we think that sailing restrictions in the strait should be maintained longer, says Andrew Kazala. For now, the reason for this behavior remains a mystery. I don't think we can consider them attacks if we can't fully understand their motivation, says Garcia Tiscar.